Thanks, everybody. Welcome. I'm Misha Kligman. I'm an associate professor in the Fine Arts Photo and Film Department here at the college, and I teach painting and drawing here. I am excited to welcome one of the presenters today, both of the presenters, but introduce one of them, Kwanza Humphrey. Kwanza graduated in 1998 with a degree in commercial art from Missouri Western State University and has been making exhibiting work since. Recently, Kwanza's work has been included in a number of notable juried exhibitions, some of which are Texarkana Regional Arts and Humanities Council 31st Annual Juried Exhibition in Texarkana, Texas. In addition, Kwanza's work received the Jurors Award at the 14th National Juried Exhibition at the Axis Gallery in Sacramento, California. You may have recently seen Kwanza's solo exhibitions in Kansas City at the Bunker Center for the Arts, as well as the Smolter Gallery, which is in the Midtown of Kansas City. Currently, Kwanza has work on view at the MBB Agency in downtown Overland Park, as well as the Indigo Hotel in the Crossroads, Kansas City, as well as Modified Ways in Blue Springs, Missouri. Kwanza Humphrey's work is in permanent collection of the Nerman Museum of Contemporary Art on our campus, as well as numerous private collections. In addition to making and exhibiting art, Kwanza is a user experience designer at Garmin, where he works on their fitness watches. I'm excited to welcome Kwanza Humphrey as one of today's presenters. Kwanza, take it away.
All right, thank you, Misha, for that great introduction, and thank you to the Nerman and everybody that's here participating. So, like I said, my name is Kwanza Humphrey. I'm an artist here in Kansas City, downtown Overland Park, and a user experience designer at Garmin. For me, art is always something that I wanted to do or be a part of and participate since I can remember. But it was ingrained into me that, how to make a living, how to, when you go to school, what are you going to do as a job? And growing up, I didn't really see a lot of people that were doing, or I didn't know a lot of people that were doing arts and making a living at it. So I went into design, and it's been a great field for me. And then I've always kind of followed my passion of painting. So through my degree in design, I also took a lot of kind of fine arts and painting courses. And so that was just kind of where I developed my passion. So yeah, I took a little bit of a hiatus when my son was born. And so kind of got started back up in about, 2010, and I've been painting ever since. I'm currently in my studio, and I'll give you a bit of a tour of that here in a little bit. It's not a huge place, but I can kind of show you around with what I've got. And so mostly before I moved here, I've had studios out of my home, in basements or on the porch or something like that. And so it's been really nice to kind of have a dedicated space that I can come to and work and kind of have some a studio practice is what I like to call it. And this last year I've been fortunate, with my position at Garmin, that I've been able to kind of do my Garmin work here, kind of set up, and then when I'm done, I get to paint and kind of play around in the analog atmosphere. So I thought I'd go ahead and give you a tour. Like I said, I'm in my studio right now. Let me see if I can switch the camera around. So here's my space. Right here, I've got kind of a gallery wall going on. Let me back up a little bit. I just got some hardware to make this more of a professional, but this is kind of where I'm at right now. I did just start this series, this Negro League series. So here are a few of the pieces that I've finished. I'm working on about 10 of them right now. You see, I've kind of got one in progress right there. These I need to get kind of framed up, and then that's one that I'm gonna kind of continue to work on. So that's been a fun series that that I've started, and just kind of enjoy working a little bit smaller. So over here is another painting that I'm anxious to kind of get to. This is just kind of getting started, so just kind of blocked it in. So hopefully this weekend I'll be able to kind of get to that one. A few other paintings that are in progress. You can see back here I've got some blank canvas to kind of get some new ones started. Another kind of presentation wall over here. And then this was a sculpture that I'm taking care of for right now. It's not mine. It's not a piece, but I just love kind of coming in here and seeing this energy from that sculpture. So my little workstation. I got my record player. Here's my art cart, my messy art cart, and the current piece that I'm working on. It's getting really close to finishing that one up. So that's been a lot of fun. And then these are some loose sketches and drawings of projects that are kind of in progress and whatnot. And then, this is kind of where I do my drawings and computer work and all that good stuff. So we'll tour the space. So I just thought I'd share a few of the influences. So this is the Sugar Shack by Ernie Barnes. I grew up watching Good Times, and that was probably my first introduction to an artist, J.J. Walker, on Good Times. And this was one of the pieces that they show, and he was always kind of working on some Ernie Barnes pieces. And this is like one of my favorite pieces, favorite artists, and I just love the expression, the color, and kind of the style that he uses. And kind of to that effect is also Thomas Hart Benton, the local Kansas City legend artist. And this piece is at the Nelson, and one of my favorite pieces. And he's an artist that kind of captures that slice of Americana in a very stylized and colorful way. I grew up on comic books, and this comic book cover by Todd McFarlane came out when I was in high school, and my friends and we always kind of drew comic books, and this artist just blew me away at the time. So I still follow him and love his work, and love kind of seeing what he's doing. Some more of the kind of the art, Jacques Louis David. And this piece is, probably you've seen it before, a pretty famous piece, but the Oath of the Hierarchy. Just love this neoclassic kind of era and style. The form and how he captures folds and clothes and the color and the light, kind of shining down and all of those, the composition. So, these are all things that I get inspired by and strive to kind of have some of those elements in my work. So I'll share a few pieces of work that I have. So this is Albert Young, a Buffalo Soldier that I painted. So I find a lot of sources, one from photography, but also I kind of mine the Library of Congress and do some look at historical photos. And this image really resonated with me, and you can see it's pretty large, 72 by 48, so almost life size, on display currently down in the Crossroads at the Indigo Hotel. This next piece is Tom D, also in the same exhibition, and I really kind of gravitate towards people that have a lot of character and a particular look. And Tom Dethridge was a gallery owner here in Kansas City that passed away a few years ago, but made a big impression on me. So I wanted to kind of do this painting. This one here is a friend from high school, Kiata. It's also in that same exhibition. And so I had her come in and model for me. And a lot of times if I have models come in, I don't necessarily am looking for anything in particular. I just think it's an interesting person or interesting energy or something along those lines. And I typically just had to have a conversation. And I knew Kiata from high school, and it kind of reconnected. And she just always kind of had this intensity about her that I wanted to capture. So that's kind of where that's coming from. This one, Miss Flora, was in the River Market Regional Exhibition at the Kansas City Artists Coalition a few years back, and won an award there. This one, just with all the patterns and the dress and the colors, another image I kind of found. This is kind of several images that I've kind of put together to kind of come up with this. So just kind of had this idea. Was inspired by, this amazing looking couch and whatnot. So this next one here is Steve. He's an artist here at the Interurban Art House with me. He's an amazing leather artist and friend, and I've spent some time with. And he just had this, huge, massive, beard and white hair, and he's just full of life and character. And I kind of wanted to capture his essence. And I tell you, he is a Grateful Dead fan, but this was not a shirt that he was wearing, and that was probably one of the more complicated things that I was able to pull off. So hopefully I did it, and it did it justice. But it was super fun piece to work on. This is another one, American Dreaming. It's in a collection here actually in downtown Overland Park, and this is just kind of a visual commentary on the state of kind of the world right now, and how everybody has a part, has an idea of what that American dream is. So next thing I'll show you, and hopefully if it kind of comes through, I've got a few more minutes, I think, or a couple of demos. Typically this is how I start. You'll see in the upper left is a drawing of a that I've worked on. So I always start with pencil and paper and kind of work out the composition and values, and then I get to the canvas. And usually it's just kind of transferring the work from the drawing to the canvas, and I'm just kind of going to block it in, set up the shapes, and work in a real light oil. I'm just kind of getting it set up. So I'll share this last piece. This is one of the Negro League players, and this is a multi-media piece. So here I'm setting up my acrylic palette. So what I'll do is do just like an acrylic wash and just kind of block it in flat right over top of my drawings. And I started doing this because drawings were something that really resonated with a lot of people, and I wanted to kind of just push them a little bit further. So that's kind of the reason why. And I really loved, working in this technique and just kind of playing around with it. So.
Thanks, Kwanzaa. If anybody has questions, please put them in the question and answer box down there below, and we will try to get to them at the end of the conversation. But Audrey, you're on.
I'm up. Well, I am Audrey Michaelis, and I am an associate professor of fashion design, and that's what my background is in. I was a commercial fashion designer for 10 years before I started teaching and fell madly in love with that. Today, it is my honor to introduce Whitney Manny. Whitney is a Kansas City native. She has a BFA in fibers from the Kansas City Art Institute. Her designs have walked the runway in several local fashion weeks, and she has been honored with many accolades. She received the Joanne Fabrics Minority Creative Grant, and she received first place award at the 38th Annual Westport Art Festival. And there's many more than that. Whitney is known for her vibrant handcrafted textiles and her focus on kind of bringing wearable art into our ready-to-wear world here. She said that her job, I loved this quote and was interested in discussing this more, that her job isn't done until everybody in the world believes fashion is art. So I look forward to unpacking this idea with Whitney today. So I'll turn it over to you, Whitney.
Thank you, Audrey. Thank you, everyone. Great to be on today. I'm gonna go ahead and just share my screen, and we're gonna get right into it. Okay, so hey y'all. Again, my name is Whitney Manny. I graduated from KCAI in 2012, and so my degree is in fibers. And really, I ended up at the Kansas City Art Institute after living in Phoenix, Arizona for 3 years during high school. So I am KC born and raised up until high school, lived in Arizona for a few years. And while I was there, I was able to attend a visual and performing arts high school. And it was everything like fame was, but a little bit it was very different. And there I was able to kind of take a lot more focused art classes. And there I was able to do the fashion track. And so I was able to really start sewing a lot more, which really helped me out. And honestly, I only started sewing out of a selfish reason. I'm 6 foot. And so it would seem like I was growing a half an inch every day when I was a kid. And so I learned how to sew because I was tired of giving my clothes to my cousins. The whole process was always pack up your winter clothes. When it's time for season to change, put them in the attic, with all the bounce sheets and everything, bring them back down, do that for the spring and the summer as well. And my mom would make me try everything on one at a time and be like, well, we got to get rid of this, and that. And you're like, but I just got that. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to learn how to sew so I can keep my things longer. I can remix them, turn them into something new. So that was really where my sewing journey came from. And I just randomly asked for a sewing machine when I was 13. Nobody knows how to sew. My mama told me when she was in home ec, she sewed a shirt backwards. My grandmama still wore it because she didn't want to make her feel bad. So that was really my, I had kind of no guidance necessarily at home for sewing. Deconstruction was the way that I taught myself. And then from there, I moved on to commercial patterns. And so really, when I was in school, when I was at KCAI, I struggled a lot. And on the third slide, you'll see it was the summer before my senior year where everything kind of clicked. It's like a light bulb went off. And I was able to realize that color, pattern, and texture were just the big elements of my work. And everything kind of came together when I did a study trip to New York for a month. I think we were there for a month. And I just kind of started reading up a little bit more about different street artists. And one of the main things that kind of jumped out at me is how all of them talked about their job was to work with the environment that they were painting on instead of work against it. And so I kind of took that idea with clothing because I want to work with the form and not against it. And so a lot of that comes into play with the colors that I pick, the scale of my patterns, as well as the method that I decide to use. So whether that is airbrushing or dyeing or digital print. And so I kind of had no idea what I was doing. I literally was spray painting, using regular spray paint and stuff like that on fabric. And once I came back into class, my teacher was like, so here's an airbrush machine. These are the pigments you can use. This is a heat press. Let's try to make this more wearable. And so I started going down that path and also was able to take a digital textile design class. The amazing thing about textile design is that no matter what I create, some of the silhouettes, they're pretty chill, they're pretty basic, but the fabric is what really tells the story. The only problem I was running into was sometimes I would be making things and it's 3 a.m. and you don't remember what you did. So you can't replicate it. And that's where digital textile design comes in. And I was able to get the inspiration grant in 2013, I think. And I did my first collection of digital textile designs, which is really amazing. And I'm able to get things printed as I need it, as little or as much. And even though I am working in a very commercial art, I guess, I still like to be able to keep things exclusive and kind of just create them as I feel like I want to and release them whenever. And I don't have to worry about having to buy 30 yards of one fabric and one print. I can do whatever I need to do. As time kind of went on, I did runway shows. So I did KC Fashion Week, St. Louis Fashion Week. I decided that I wanted to produce my own shows and do them in a different way, because whenever a runway show takes 7 minutes and it's over, and it's you've spent 8 months getting ready for something and you've invested all of this time and this energy and finances, and it's over immediately. So I ended up creating like this format where I can have an opening night of a runway show in a gallery space, but then I can go and create an installation in the space and have the clothes displayed in there. So then now the show is for a total of 2 weeks or a month. And it really allows, especially with the detail that I put into my work, it allows for viewers to, if they came opening night, they can come back, take a closer look at the clothing, and just kind of understand more of what my journey and what my process is. And yeah, I just really love to create from a space of ready to wear. Of course, I create separates because it was really important, and it was something that while I was still in school, I decided I wanted to create separates and ready to wear, mainly because I wanted stuff that I knew I would feel confident about and things that I would wear, and things that my audience would feel comfortable in. And most importantly, things that don't have to be dry cleaned. Being like a couture-esque designer just never really interested me, because I'm like, I want stuff I can wear my sneakers with. And that's really the place that I came from. And I think that there is room and there's space to be able to create wearable art that can still be worn every day and can still be thrown into your existing wardrobe. And I'm very thankful. I've been well supported in the Kansas City community. So I've been able to do shows with Kemper, like little pop-up shows with Kemper, the Nelson, and just other like different places where you would not normally see fashion. And I'm able to do things where I'm able to like kind of be more creative and direct my shoots, and take them to more of a level that's not so commercial, but still has like a big highlight on the work that I'm creating. I am in a space by myself on the west side of KC, so I'm a little bit outside of the crossroads, and it's just me. And I have a decently sized space where I'm able to paint and sew and do photo shoots and all that fun stuff. The nice thing is that I still get to do some fine artwork. So it's still textiles, but not necessarily wearables. And so recently I was able to collaborate with the City Girl Farm Studios. And I was able to work with them. They make these cool chicken footstools. And so I was able to transfer my wearable way of thinking onto a footstool that's still functional, which I love functional art. And I was just able to like design my collection, use my fabrics. So it's all like merino wool that we hand felted and spun and hand knit things. We marbled fabric and dyed silk organza and just created this fun collection of chicken footstools. And I got to name each of them. So they're all named after my mom, my grandmamas, and my aunties. And this is kind of like one of probably my favorite collaboration. I'm looking forward to be able to work in that space more as time goes on. So yeah, if you want to follow me on Instagram, see me roller skating, or sewing, or see my pup, you can follow me at Whitney Manny. Otherwise, thank you all for putting up with me and my tech craziness today, but I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much.
All right, we have a couple questions, and I think we can get started with the Q&A.
Sounds good. Maybe I'll take the first question from, and please, more questions would be awesome from everybody. I guess the first one addresses both people, both presenters today. When did you begin to make art, and when did you consider this pursuit in a kind of a serious way?
I'll start.
Okay,
go ahead. No.
Okay.
I couldn't see.
I think for me, I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur of some sort. I think I was about 15 when my mom was like, all right, sis, time to start filling out those job applications. I got through one application and I wanted to tear my eyelashes out. Honestly, I was so annoyed. It was for CVS. I was like, I can't do this. So when I was in high school, I would make purses and pillows, and I would sew stuff for my friends' moms, like if they needed tailoring or something like that. And thank goodness they put up with the work level I was at back then. But I just always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur, and I always knew I was going to be creative of some sort. I think that for me, fashion was the thing that I wasn't just automatically talented in. I knew I could write, I knew I could draw, I could paint, but fashion was like the thing I knew nothing about. Nobody could form my idea of it. It was something I could make my own. And I think that was the thing for me where I was just like, I want to see how far I can get in this, because I just wanted to prove it to myself. And I genuinely love it. I mean, every day I come to studio, it's like, I'm really here full time now. Like, what is happening? This is amazing. So
Yeah, for me, I've always drawn since I was like in preschool. So I've always known that I wanted to do be in the art field in some aspects. I probably started taking this seriously after, I was in kind of the corporate world, and I had a buddy, and we'd kind of throw drawings back and forth, and I entered a couple of shows, and people kind of noticed the work, and I mean, and it was something that I always loved doing. So I just kind of kept with it, and for me, I've been trying to just with each piece that I do, just get a little bit better, do a little work on my craftsmanship, my ideas, my composition, color, and just make good art right now. So that's what it's all about, and it's just it's a passion for me. And the thing is like I'm still in corporate world, but I'm in the design of corporate world. So it's kind of these two sides of, one is more analytical, and I design to communicate very explicitly, and then I can flip that over, when I do my art, where I'm not trying to be as explicit or hit you over the head with it, or I can be subtle, so I can just kind of hide certain things or make impressions and see and offer that communication with the viewer to see, are you picking up what I'm saying, or are you seeing something different? And if you're seeing something different, that's what art is for me, is to just kind of hope that you're able to identify and see and stir something in you to kind of think about things. So.
Okay, I'm going to choose another one that's actually directed to both of you. And this question is, what was the first piece of art that you made that you were truly proud of?
Oh.
For me, it was a Jeep. So I was probably not even in kindergarten, preschool. So how you do like the chickens, like you lay your hand down and you trace it, and you do like the feathers. And I was like, okay, that looks like that. And so then there was this little Jeep that I had at the daycare or preschool. And so I tried to do the same thing. I tried to lay it down and then trace it. And it looked horrible, as it would, because it's not a flat, object. And so then I set it aside, and I just kind of started drawing, because I wanted to have, take that with me. And so I just kind of set it aside and drew it, and it looked like it did. And from that point on, I've been drawing or making or creating. So for me, my art is more probably observation, reflecting and seeing in the world, and then kind of taking that internally and then putting it on canvas or 2D. So.
I think specifically like design and sewing wise, and I was still in high school, we had to do like a group project, a group collection. And I think I got all my fabric at Walmart. And we were going for like a Burberry kind of thing. I mean, this is like 2008. So, what do we know? But I did like a trench coat that was like off the shoulder, but had this huge collar, and everything was plaid. The outside of the jacket was black, but like with this huge plaid collar and these really, really big buttons. And I worked day and night on that thing, and I was so proud when like it was able to be put on somebody and actually stay on. So
It's awesome. Thank you. There was a question about a studio, and I know for me, when in my very early 20s, when I got my first studio, which was my first kind of adult decision that I made against kind of my parents' wishes to get an art studio, is when I felt the most kind of, I'm doing this. This is the art thing I'm doing.
Mhm.
There was a question from the audience about how did you get to the studios you're in? And for me, also, I want to ask both of you, do you feel like having a studio like changes your work? Do you recommend having a studio? Do you think it's a necessary component of doing what you do?
I think for me, yes, it's necessary only because at any time, I have 5 machines plugged in and running, and there's just not enough room or space in my house. I mean, I started out like any normal, I started in my parents' basement, the garage, ended up in like an office building, ended up at the drugstore, and then now here. Um, I do, and I also like the separation. I think it gives me space to where at the end of the day, when I turn the lights off, close the door, if I think of something while I'm at home, I don't feel as hectic. I can just kind of sketch, close that book, and revisit it in the morning. So yeah, that separation is really important for me, and being able to have a space where I can create as big of a mess as I need to without worrying about like my kitchen floors or, anything like that, I think is freeing. Because you can sometimes, depending on what you do and how big you work, you can be limited by your space.
Yeah, for me, I've always had some type of studio space coming out of college. Even in college, I was able to have a small, in the small town that I was in, a space outside of my living space.
Mhm.
And even in when I've had living space, I've always kind of dedicated a studio spot where I could just kind of be and create. I do like having this larger separation. I'm in a building that's about 7 minutes from my house, so it kind of helps me develop a practice. And I think it's important that as a studio artist or as an artist that you have a practice of, even if you're not necessarily inspired, that you have a kind of regiment of way of creating. And for me, it's helped because I can come in here, I can, like you said, leave it as messy or as I want, be surrounded kind of by the work, and know that when I'm in this space is I'm able to create. And when I'm not in this space, I usually take a picture on my phone, and so then I have kind of something that I see on a regular basis.
Mhm.
And so I kind of plan, when I'm not here, I think, oh, I need to work on that piece. I need to work on this. So I just kind of give myself an ability to not see it, in its entirety, but think about it and see new pieces and new parts that I can work on. So it's been a advantage, for me. And I think it's having this space has helped just kind of push the work further along for me. So.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask you another one that I think is kind of interesting. There's a question on here about how do you work past like feelings of frustration when you can't make kind of your ideas happen? So I wondered if you could speak a little bit to kind of the ups and downs of the creative process and how that is for you personally. To both of you, so whoever.
Yeah, for me, there are periods of time where it's like I have to kind of push myself no matter what kind of day I think I'm having or however I'm feeling, just because of deadlines. Like deadlines are real. And so sometimes I do have to power through it. But there are times when it's like something that could have taken me, 10 minutes, took me 3 hours. And I'm just like, it can be incredibly frustrating. I try to make sure that as a part of my studio practice, I'm also like coming in here with intention and grace and thankfulness that first of all, I'm able to even get to do this every day, that I have a space and I have what I need. And so when I kind of like slow down and acknowledge all of that, I'm able to kind of calm myself down and restart. I'm of the school of like, buy a little bit more than what you need. And especially with sewing, as long as I have a seam ripper, I can fix something. So I just try to like always slow down. And it's nice because I have space where like I can walk the block, come back, or just simply move on to something else. Cause maybe my brain is not ready to handle working on, these hymns or stuff like that, or pattern drafting, but maybe I can handle answering emails right now. I think it's just being honest with yourself, being honest about your capabilities and what you can handle at certain times of the day. Like I know that I need to cut off meetings at a certain time, or I won't be able to handle the rest of my day. I know that if I have to do detail work, that kind of work needs to happen after lunch. So that way I am better focused. So I think you just have to pay attention to how you work, because you are truly self-directed.
No, absolutely. I agree with a lot of that. And I've definitely kind of gone through those periods where I feel like why am I doing this? I don't know what I'm doing. This is horrible. And then, a lot of times it's, hey, this isn't working out right now. And then I just set it aside, and you'll see I've got several pieces that are in the midst of completion. I've got one canvas that it's sat there for since I've been here, actually. So I think it's like, what he's saying is being able to know how you work, know kind of what your mannerisms are. I've noticed that a lot of the more, detail and the paper things that I do on the paper, I do better if I do that early, or if I dedicate like a day to work on that rather than trying to go back and forth. But I also try to work in a varied style and varied composition and pieces, sizes, so that I do kind of change it up. And there's a process to how I create. So I usually start with a drawing, and that drawing, before I even get to that, starts with research or ideas or images, or I'm shuffling. So there's always aspects that I'm kind of going through, and I'm not like, if I get frustrated in a particular spot, it's like, well, I still have this over here that I can work on, and I just kind of transfer that energy. And like you said, getting outside of the space, going for walks, having other things that occupy yourself, I think are very, very important to kind of get you back. And a lot of times in those moments when you're not thinking about the work, or when things will pop up, is like, oh yeah, I can do that. So
Great. Thank you, everybody, for really good questions in helping us keep this conversation going. Knowing that we have a lot of students in the audience, there's a question I think is good to ask. What is your advice to aspiring artists, or people who are interested in art?
So I'd say do it. I'd say most of it is jumping in and just creating and keep kind of pushing, and always that's probably the biggest thing is not wait for inspiration, or like getting into the right space or getting into the right mindset. It's like there's always something. And I would say early on is to constantly do that, because the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. The more you can kind of push the development of that, the more people will see your polish, the craftsmanship and those type of things, and you'll feel more confident in what you're creating.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just building up your endurance. It's almost like, in a way, you still are kind of like training like you're an athlete. Even if you are like, I'm stuck on concepts, or I don't know what I want to kind of say, well, maybe you can just practice the technical aspect of whatever medium you're choosing to work in, and keep building that up. And really, one of my biggest things is like to just always educate yourself, whether you're in school or not. Just self-education within whatever like medium and practice you want to be in is so important.
Thanks.
Okay, Kwanzaa spoke to this a little bit, but there's a couple questions about where you find your inspiration. So maybe Whitney can answer this, and Kwanzaa can elaborate a little more on what he said. But maybe when you're starting a new piece, what are some of your favorite sources of inspiration, or what makes some unusual things?
Yeah, generally, and like I honestly, just to backtrack a little bit, I thought that I was going to go to school for journalism. I was set and ready to go. So I figured if my portfolio and me got accepted into art school, I should probably just go for it. The thing I love about journalism is the research aspect. And I love that I can still keep that aspect up within fashion and textiles. Sometimes I just try to keep a note, like in my planners. I'm a big list maker. For the week, I make a page that's specifically like my 2 Google lists or 2 research lists, because stuff will just pop up. And I'm like, I want to learn more about this, or I'm very interested about certain things. A lot of my narratives, I'm really interested in stories about people who have been the first to do something, or just like urban movements that have like really shaped what this world is. And so I just like to kind of research those things. And for me, I think in patterns. So the way I comprehend those stories like just comes to me visually. I just try to get it down and get it out whichever way, is possible. But I'm really inspired by street art, the aesthetics of it, like the process of it. Born in the 90s, so that's a big inspiration for me. I grew up, cross colors, Carl Kanai, FUBU, like all that stuff. So that's the fashion that I know, and Ebony magazine and Essence magazine. That's what I grew up knowing. And so a lot of my pieces kind of reference a bit of that as well, in the way that I choose my colors. But I'm always open to any type of inspiration. I think the thing that helps me kind of always have different types of inspiration is I say, like, I like to know a little bit about everything. So if I'm reading about different topics or watching documentaries or, visiting different shows and museums and stuff like that, I'm going to constantly be inspired.
Yeah, I would reiterate, that being open and available, and just kind of your spirit and what, how you show up in the world. And I like to travel, and I've got a camera phone or something. So I'm always like taking images or listening to stories, seeing, people and imagining, what they're into. And you'll see a lot of the work that I have is about around people. So it's, finding, seeing, somebody with an interesting look, and then whether I talk to them or not, just imagining, a story or a narrative. Even with, like, when you said with patterns, I like a lot of African fabrics, and just imagining, people wrapped in, kind of these regal robes or something that I like to kind of gravitate towards. Looking at historical, images and kind of people in the margins that have been kind of pushed aside. I like kind of bringing those to the forefront and relating difference with, that kind of common theme of emotion that, we all have this, emotion and connection to each other and to the world. So it's being kind of that sponge when I'm out and about, from walking, down the street to going on a scuba diving trip, always kind of just seeing and taking notes, and then, maybe researching a little bit further. So like you said, I keep a sketchbook of ideas. I keep a phone of, things, notes that I'll type up. And so I typically have like a book that I'll go through and it's like, okay, I want to needle on that a little bit more, or push on that and go that way. So it's like I'm never really lacking in the years that I've been kind of doing this. I've got a bit of a library of things. So I mean, and sometimes it's like, oh, I've got like this entire catalog of things I want to get to, but there's this thing over here. Let me just do this one real quick. So
Thanks. There's a question about both of you working in Kansas City, Missouri. Do you feel that is some kind of an advantage to your work, and whether you think you have a regional influence in your work?
I think for me, and of course, being in fashion, everybody's like, LA, New York, why are you still here? I personally enjoy being able to have a home, a studio, a car. I can afford to live. I can afford to invest into my studio consistently. I just don't think that I would be able to do that if I were on either coast. And I also know how I work and how I think. And I think that that would just give me, honestly, like crippling anxiety about how am I going to make things work? Like honestly, for real, for real. So being in KC has never felt like I've never felt like my growth has been stunted, because at the end of the day, if I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna get it done. Um, and I think the bigger advantage is I can be based here and I can fly to go do a show, or I can be anywhere, you know, Southwest or Delta will take me. So, and I'm able to do that because I'm in such a position where I am well supported in this city. And especially with my style and my the way I approach fashion, I definitely think being in the Midwest has influenced it. I was talking to somebody like before, you know, up until I kind of started getting into fashion and interested about it, my relationship to fashion was the JCPenney catalog and, you know, putting stuff in layaway. So it was something that drove me to want to know more, to want to understand, you know, what New York Fashion Week and who these designers are. But it's also one of those things where we're just like a real cool city, honestly. Like we're a little big city. We don't realize how big and dope we are. And I think being able to live outside of here and come back home, I definitely learned that.
No, I definitely reiterate, you know, a lot of the things that Whitney said. I think, you know, it's the affordability here is huge. So I can, you know, get canvas. I have places. In fact, I have another storage unit full of
Right.
of art that I can, you know, I can afford to do that, you know, being here. And I think, you know, that in the digital age, you can be anywhere, you know, at any time. It's basically an image I can put out to, you know, New York, LA. You know, it's like I'm not schlepping canvases into these galleries. So
Right.
that's afforded, you know, us the opportunity to kind of be anywhere at any time. And I would say definitely I'm able to, I know a lot of people here in Kansas City. You'll see a lot of people that I know kind of show up in the work. So that affords me, you know, models and friends that I can kind of come in and, you know, have a space for them to come and shoot. So yeah, I think I enjoy being here. I do love traveling and going out, but I always love kind of coming back and being at home.
Okay, thank you. I got another one. Who is your favorite artist or even designer? Who would you guys say is your number one favorite?
Well, when I first started, my wheelhouse was Betsy Johnson, Donatella Versace, and Kimora Lee Simmons, which they are still like my holy trinity of fashion. As I have learned more and grown, right now, just kind of, he's an older designer, but like looking back, Patrick Kelly.
Yeah, I'd say, you know, I mentioned a few, you know, Thomas Hart, you know, Benton, you know, Ernie Barnes, Kadir Nelson, some contemporary artists, Tima Akamura, Kent Williams. I mean, I'm on Instagram and there's like so much great work out there on Instagram too that I love, you know, seeing and being inspired by and seeing how, you know, people are handling images and what they're doing. And, you know, being an oil painter, I really like pushing, you know, that medium. So I feel like I could pretty much do anything, you know, in that medium. It's not very limiting to me, and it's limited by kind of my dance with the materials. So over this time period since really '98, I feel like I'm just now figuring out how to paint. So I'm constantly learning, constantly trying to push and learn from others. So
Awesome. We have 5 minutes left, so maybe a couple more questions. Here's one. As artists of color, have you had much struggle getting your work out there? And if so, what keeps you going?
I think for me, the good thing for me is that when I decided to become a professional artist, of how vast and helpful the internet was. I think if I would have been in this space in a different time period, it would have been a lot harder. Not to say it hasn't been hard. I think the biggest thing for me is not that I have been shut out of spaces necessarily, but more so that because of who I am, people have a expectation of what my work is going to be. And a lot of times there's been certain situations where I felt like I fulfill a diversity quota. But guess what? They let me in the show anyways. So I'm gonna show up and show out and be better than everybody else. And that's usually just what I try to do. That's what I try to focus on, and always make sure that my teams are full of models of color, makeup artists, photographers, hairstylists of color, because it makes no sense for me to be able to get that chance to be at the table and I'm not bringing people with me that also need to be represented.
Oh, absolutely. And I think for me, I don't know that I've necessarily noticed it, just because I'm not focused on making a living doing this. Like I have a day job and so it's somewhat freeing for me, is that if you don't like it, I don't really care. I'm going to make it anyway. And so I have just kind of focused more on the work and making good work and doing it and applying. And when you apply for shows, I think I did notice that people expect one thing out of you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show, what I want to do. So there may be that period that it is that particular thing that you expect, but other times it's not. And I'm not dependent on you to kind of like it or not, because somebody will, and if they don't, that doesn't really bother me either, because I'm going to make it anyway. So I just kind of keep pushing forward with that. Right.
Because especially for me too, like I have a foot in the fine arts circle, but also in the commerce circle. So a lot of times it's like in the fine arts circle, I'm hearing so many things, but at the end of the day, it's like, but I was able to send my work to like 10 people, like 10 people have that dress hanging up now. I hear what you're saying, but so I think it does help to be able to have perspectives from two different worlds and then find that happy medium, but always remember that happy medium should honor you and your creativity.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I guess to follow up the conversation here, do you feel like being sort of committed and honest to the work that you want to make rather than what people expect you to make? Do you feel like your audience eventually finds you, that eventually people come and they look at the work that you've made and they basically accept it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for me, I've been commissioned. I see the difference between what I did commissioned early. It's like, I want you to do this and do this, and then I get kind of pigeonholed and I don't like it at all, but I do it. To now is like people come to me if for a commission based on what I do now. So, and that's kind of like and I have that luxury of like, if it's something that I don't want to do, then I'm not going to do it, unfortunately. So
yeah, I've found that the times where I'm like, okay, I have to make something that looks like this because this seems to be what people are responding to. Like, I find when I try to create work like that and coming from a space of I have to, people don't respond to it because the passion is not there. It doesn't have that, that vibe to it.
The flavor, yep.
Exactly. So, but when I am coming in this space and I am being authentically WM and that comes across, people come on, they show up.
Yep.
Thank you.